The current is slow tonight. You float on your back, arms outstretched, the water warm as memory. Around you, the river moves without rush, a liquid hush that carries thought like silt. Each bend is familiar, yet subtly changed. You've been here before, but never like this. Never with this new way of noticing. This is your mind. A river of thought, carved over years, decades by repetition, by emotion, by everything you've ever done and hoped and feared. The stream beneath you is soft, shifting and alive. As you drift, you begin to see how every current holds a habit. A thought repeated enough times deepens its groove. A worry traced again and again becomes a canyon. A joy laughed often becomes a hidden inlet. Waiting, but nothing here is fixed. That's the first secret of neuroplasticity. The mind can change. Even its oldest paths can be softened, redirected, reformed. Look now to your left, where an old thought used to rage. A fear perhaps, a sharp current, relentless. You remember how it pulled at you, again and again, dragging you toward anxious eddies. But now it's gentler, softer, like water after a storm, settling, not gone, but changed. Why? Because the river remembers, but it also forgets. When you stop feeding certain channels with attention, with belief, with time, they begin to dry. The grooves remain, faint, but they no longer pull you under. They no longer own the flow. Instead, new tributaries begin to branch. Small ones at first, curiosity here, a new habit there, a path of kindness forged in the shallows, a nightly gratitude, tiny as a pebble, becoming part of the bedrock. Every breath you take here is a paddle stroke, nudging the current. Each choice is a ripple. And though one ripple might seem too small, the river listens. It builds, it gathers. What begins as a whisper of water against stone becomes, in time, a change of course. You drift beneath an overhanging willow. Its branches skim the surface like old dreams once tangled, now gentle. You remember times when you thought you'd never change, that your pain was permanent. But even then, deep below, the water was shifting. It always was. There's a reason they call it plasticity, not because it is artificial, but because it can be molded, shaped, rewritten. Neurons are not statues, they are dancers. They move in patterns, yes, but not always the same ones. The more a pattern is rehearsed, the stronger it becomes. The more it is ignored, the fainter its echo. The brain, it turns out, is not a prison. It's a playground, a map of trails, and you are both the traveler and the cartographer. You hear laughter in the current, now a memory of joy from years ago. It bubbles to the surface, clear and clean. You had forgotten it, perhaps. But the river hadn't. Somewhere that groove still shimmered, waiting for attention to revive it. Neuroplasticity doesn't just build new, it revives the buried, the overgrown, the almost lost. As you glide, you begin to notice the tools you've used even without knowing. Repetition, focus, sleep, movement, imagination. Each is like a stone tossed into the stream, shaping eddies, creating shadows, stirring the floor, learning to play an instrument, to dance, to love. All these things remap the river. Trauma can change the river, yes, but so can healing, so can hope, and that's the second secret. Direction matters more than depth. You don't need to erase the old rivers, you simply need to guide the flow where you want it to go. There is no shame in old grooves. They were made when you needed them. They helped you survive. But now maybe you don't need to flow that way anymore. A thought arises, what if I get pulled back? And the river answers, then we try again. That's the third secret. Neuroplasticity is not about perfection, it's about permission. Permission to reflow, to try, to stumble and redirect. You are never too old, too stuck, too far gone. The river never stops flowing, and that means there is always a way. Ahead, the moonlight touches a new path, one you haven't taken before. It glimmers like possibility. You can choose it now, or not. The river is patient. It will wait until you're ready, but it hopes. It always hopes. You close your eyes and let yourself float. You think of the times you surprised yourself when you did something new, something braver, something softer. Those were not accidents. They were the river listening, adapting, trusting your direction. The neurochemical tides, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, they rise and fall with you, not separate, but part of the water. Your emotions are not outside the stream. They are the water's color, its temperature, its dance. And each one, even the darker ones, can become part of the learning, the remapping, the transformation. You begin to understand something. The brain doesn't just change because of knowledge. It changes because of experience. And more than that, because of meaning. When something matters, the grooves form faster, deeper. That's why stories change us more than facts. That's why love rewires us more than logic. Tonight, as you drift, you are not just learning about the river. You are becoming it. You are shaping your next thought, your next step. You are no longer the person who started this chapter. Your mind has already begun to bend. Somewhere behind you, the old channels remain. Somewhere ahead, new ones await. But here, right here, the water is quiet, clear, listening. And beneath it, your mind opens like a delta, branching into endless possible paths. You breathe in. The water sighs, and as you round the next bend, you wonder softly, curiously, what happens when the river flows beneath the surface of dreams. The evening air wraps around you like a quiet breath. The world has hushed its noise, and so have you. You lie still, as if your thoughts have taken a seat beside you, willing to listen, not speak. Inside the vast cathedral of your mind, there is movement, not loud or frantic, but steady, rhythmic. A faint tap, tap, like stone on stone. This is the work of the habit sculptor. You can't see them, not directly, but their presence is felt in everything you do again and again. They are the unseen artists of repetition, carving familiar grooves, smoothing over the sharp corners of yesterday's choices. They wear no face, but you know them. They shaped how you brush your teeth, how you reach for your phone, how you respond to the quiet itch of boredom. Each routine, each craving, each automatic gesture, it was sculpted, not by chance, but by countless chisel marks of time. Every habit begins as clay, soft, malleable. The first few times, the sculptor watches with curiosity. You try something once the clay shifts. Twice it starts to take form. By the 10th time, the outline is familiar, and by the 100th, it has hardened into stone. You are walking a path of your own making, but sometimes, the path begins to walk you. The sculptor is neither good nor bad. They only follow instruction. Their tools are emotion, repetition, and reward. Give them something that feels good, relief, pleasure, even distraction, and they will lean in, eager to make it easier the next time. Their goal is efficiency, not meaning, but tonight you bring awareness to their hands, and when you do, something begins to change. You begin to notice how many of your habits were sculpted in silence, without permission, without pause. They were born of survival, of stress, of seeking comfort. Not all of them still serve you. Not all of them ever did. But habits are not statues in a museum. They are living stone, and stone too can be reshaped. You walk into the chamber of your mind, where one of these sculptures stands. Maybe it's the habit of comparison. Maybe it's a nightly scroll that steals your rest. Maybe it's the way your thoughts spiral when you're alone. Whatever form it takes, you see it now clearly, calmly, and beside it, the sculptor waits. They are not defensive, they are patient. They hold the chisel in one hand, and a brush in the other. You speak softly, "I'd like to change this." The sculptor nods, not because it's easy, but because it is possible. They begin again, but now you are involved. You guide their hand, you suggest a different shape, a gentler response, a softer curve in the marble. You bring intention. Each time you choose the new path, even just once, it is as though the chisel finds a new angle. At first the stone resists, it chips awkwardly, but the brain does not resist change because it is stubborn. It resists because it seeks safety. When you show it that the new path is safe, maybe even better, it begins to trust. Habits are not broken, they are outgrown, and when outgrown, they can be lovingly recarved. The sculptor smiles now. You've given them new instruction, not a command, but a rhythm. Small steps, frequent steps, gentle repetition, and rewards. Not grand ones, but small satisfactions, a breath of peace, a spark of pride, the soft glow of I did something different today. The brain learns by contrast. It compares what you used to do with what you did today. And if today feels better, even a little, the sculptor notices. The chisel strikes again, the stone gives way, and you begin to see that change doesn't come in sudden collapse. It comes in quiet nudges, like a tide pulling slowly at the edges of a cliff. It is the repetition of a new story, told patiently, day after day, inside the folds of your brain. Myelin wraps around new pathways like silk, strengthening them. The more you use the new trail, the more myelin smooths it. The sculptor works with these threads, weaving sturdier habits into place, but they also know when to pause. Rest is part of the process. During sleep like tonight, the sculptor sharpens tools, reviews the day's chisel marks, and lays down memory with care. What you practice today becomes easier tomorrow, not because of willpower, but because the sculptor had time to polish the work overnight. And in this stillness, you realize even when you are not thinking about it, your brain is still learning. Even when you feel stuck, change is quietly preparing its next move. And even when a habit feels too deep to erase it, is not beyond reshaping. The sculptor works slowly, yes, but what they create can last a lifetime. You begin to smile, not because the sculpture is done, but because you know it never truly is. Every day adds a new detail, a new curve, a softened edge. Some habits will remain, not all need to vanish. Many are beautiful. The habit of kindness, of stillness, of returning to yourself each night. These too are carved. These too deserve your attention. As your breath deepens and your thoughts quiet, the chamber of the mind dims. The sculptor sets down the chisel. They will return tomorrow. But before they go, they whisper something to you. A gentle truth carried by time. You are not made of marble. You are not frozen. You are becoming. The stone softens and the silence deepens. And just before sleep takes your hand, a question stirs. If habits can be reshaped, what about memory itself? The night has deepened, and with it, a soft awareness arises, not loud, not urgent, but like a knock on the far end of your attention. A presence, a pull. It is not hunger, not quite, not need, but something quieter, older, a craving. It does not crash through your mind like a storm. It comes like a whisper. The rustle of leaves under bare feet, footsteps on moss. This is how craving often begins, not with a roar but a ripple, a shimmer of wanting. Sometimes for food, sometimes for a voice, a scroll, a rush of dopamine dressed in pixels. Sometimes for a feeling you can't quite name. But tonight, you do not resist it. You don't chase it away, you simply notice. You invite it in like an old traveler passing through, not to stay but to be seen. Craving, you learn, is not the same as acting. It is only a signal, not a command. A candle's flicker, not a wildfire. The more you stare at it directly, the less it burns. Somewhere in your brain, deep in the folds of the limbic system, the craving circuit hums. It is ancient, a relic of survival. Its roots wind through the nucleus accumbens, the ventral tegmental area, the mesolimbic reward pathway, a system sculpted to seek, to move, to desire. Long ago this kept you alive. Now it sometimes pulls you toward things that soothe in the moment but fade in meaning. And yet, it is not your enemy. Craving is not weakness. It is sensitivity. It is your brain, remembering what once brought relief or joy or escape. It wants to help. It wants to feel good again. You feel the familiar urge rise, maybe to check, to taste, to reach. And instead of following, you pause. You breathe. And in that breath, a miracle unfolds. The craving, when watched with kindness, begins to change. Studies show this mindfulness interrupts the loop. When you observe a craving without judgment, without feeding it, the brain learns something new. I can notice this, and I don't have to obey. A moment of pause becomes a moment of power. You lie here now, and imagine the craving as a small bird, fluttering in through the window of your awareness. It pecks once, twice, waits. You do not swat it away. You do not feed it. You simply sit beside it. The bird tilts its head. It realizes you're not playing the old game. It flutters once more, and then it leaves. Not forever, but for now. This is how cravings fade, not with force, but with quiet attention. You begin to understand the pattern. Cue, craving, response, reward. This is the habit loop. A craving is not the loop itself, it is just the middle note. And what changes the song is whether you answer. Sometimes you do, and that's okay. Other times, like tonight, you watch instead. Over time the craving grows quieter, not because it is banished, but because it is no longer fed. You trace this pattern back further. You ask what usually cues this craving. Is it a certain time of night? A flicker of boredom? A memory of loneliness? A celebration? A stress? You realize cravings are often shadows of a deeper need: connection, rest, joy, comfort. And so instead of trying to crush the craving, you ask, what is this really asking for? Maybe it wants a voice. Maybe it wants warmth. Maybe it just wants you to slow down and be kind. So you offer that. You wrap yourself in presence. You let your body rest heavy on the bed. You feel the rhythm of your own breath. You imagine your thoughts like soft reeds swaying in a current, not stiff, not resisting. In this space you discover a new truth. Cravings don't last long. Research shows they rise like waves, building, peaking, falling, usually within minutes. It is the story we tell about the craving that keeps it alive. But here in this silence the story ends. There is no drama, no battle, only awareness. You are no longer afraid of the wanting. You let it rise and pass like the tide. And as it fades, you feel something surprising: relief, pride, freedom. Your brain too is learning. Each time you sit with the craving, instead of sprinting into it, the neural pathway grows thinner. The signal weakens. The sculptor who you met in the last chapter takes note. The grooves begin to soften, and in their place, new paths emerge. Maybe next time, when the craving knocks, you will still open the door. But maybe you'll offer it tea instead of a throne. You'll listen. You'll thank it. You'll let it pass. You drift deeper now. The craving is a whisper behind you, a memory of a wave that never broke. And in its place is something larger. Space, choice, stillness. You are not the craving. You are the one who watches it come and go, like wind through tall grass, like footsteps on moss. You feel the softness return to your thoughts. Your breath moves without effort. And the question begins to form, quiet but clear. If a craving can be watched without fear, then what of the thoughts we don't even know we're thinking? The ones that shape the very river beneath us. The night around you is still, but inside, a light flickers, soft, warm, cautious. A lantern swinging gently in the corridor of your mind. It does not frighten you, it draws you forward. This is the light of memory, and tonight it wants to show you something. You follow, down the winding halls of your inner world. You pass echoes, faces, feelings, rooms that once held the weight of your decisions. Some sharp, some blurred, but all stitched into your nervous system like stories told beneath the skin. Here, memory is not thought, it is sensation. It is the tightening in your chest when you hear a certain song, the twitch in your hand when you're alone too long, the urge that arises not from hunger, but from history. Addiction does not dwell in logic. It dwells in feeling, and feeling is memory's language. You step into a space that feels familiar, not because you remember it, but because your body does. A craving you once answered, again and again, until the path to it wore deep grooves in your brain. But tonight you do not run. You do not scold. You hold up the lantern, and you look. This is where addiction once found its home, not as a monster, but as a desperate form of warmth. A way to feel okay, a way to return to something even if it hurt, because at least it was known. The brain is a storyteller. When you repeat an action, especially one tied to strong emotion, the hippocampus and amygdala press record. Each time, the memory deepens. The reward feels more certain. The path grows faster, smoother, almost automatic. But what gets recorded is not just the substance, or the screen, or the food, or the voice. What gets recorded is the feeling you were trying to escape, and the illusion that relief must always come from the same place. You lift the lantern higher. You see, not the act, but the ache beneath it. And with that sight comes power, because the brain is not just a recorder, it is an editor. Memories are not fixed. Each time we recall them, they are vulnerable to revision. Science calls this reconsolidation, the process by which memories are retrieved, re-experienced, and rewritten. And what rewrites them most is not shame, not guilt, but compassion. You sit down beside one such memory now. It trembles not with fear, but with exhaustion. It has carried so much weight. You do not try to erase it. You do not deny it. You say, I see you. I know what you were trying to do. You were trying to protect me. You didn't know another way. The memory softens, its edges blur, its glow changes from cold to warm. This too is healing, not the forgetting, but the re-seeing. You learn tonight that your brain is always becoming, that even your oldest stories are not set in stone. They are written in synapses and neurotransmitters, in cells that listen closely to experience, and when experience changes, so does the story. The lantern leads you now to a fork in the neural path, to the left, the familiar groove, a memory linked to escape, to the right, a thinner path, newer, softer, still forming. You choose the new one, not with force, but with tenderness. With each step, the lantern shines wider. You begin to see the places where old pain had become identity, where I do this became, I am this. But you are not your patterns. You are not the sum of your repetitions. You are the one holding the light. You are the one deciding how to walk forward, even when the past tugs gently at your sleeve. You begin to whisper a new memory into your nervous system, the memory of not following the craving, the memory of choosing presence, the memory of seeing the ache and staying. Your brain records this, not as a heroic act, but as a real one. One that matters, one that rewires. Because the more often a memory is followed by a different outcome, the more the neurons loosen their grip on the old path. And over time, the pain loses its charge. The craving loses its pull. The old light fades not out of rejection, but out of being seen. You lie back now. The lantern floats beside you. It does not need to lead. It only needs to witness. And you understand, addiction was never about weakness. It was about trying to feel okay, in the only way you knew how. But now there are other ways. Kinder ones. Slower ones. Ones that light up different corridors in the mind. You do not have to forget the past. You only have to light it differently. You breathe in, the air tastes softer, and as you drift towards sleep, the memory folds itself gently, tucks into the folds of your mind, not gone, but no longer in control. And just before your thoughts dissolve into dreams, a soft idea stirs, like a breeze behind the lantern. If memory can be edited with compassion, then what might emotion become, when fully felt and fully understood? You awaken in the dream of your own mind, not with urgency, but with curiosity. The air is soft here. A mist rises over tilled earth. You kneel beside it. This is the garden of dopamine. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It grows in silence, in soil that remembers joy. Each bud, each stem, each unfolding petal, they are built from moments of wanting, moments of pleasure, moments of reward. This garden has always lived in you. Before craving, before habit, there was a system designed to help you move toward what is good. Not just survival, but satisfaction. Dopamine is not happiness. It is hope. It is the energy to reach, the spark that says go, a soft wind behind your ribs, urging your hand toward the fruit. When balanced, it guides. When flooded, it overwhelms. You stand slowly, gaze across the garden. It was once a wild place flourishing with many types of pleasure, a walk beneath trees, the warm sun on your face, the sound of a voice you love. Each one a flower, different in shape and scent. But addiction is like pouring water on only one root, day after day, year after year. You see it now, a single plant grown huge, greedy, towering over the others. Its shadow blocks the light. Its roots sprawl, thirsty, tangled. This is what happens when reward is narrowed, when the brain learns to associate all joy with one source. A screen, a pill, a drink, a number, a bite, a ping. And like all things grown from imbalance, it becomes fragile, brittle. It needs more and more to feel less and less, but the soil is still fertile. That is the truth. The garden whispers to you now. The damage is not permanent. The roots may be tangled, but they are not rotten. You kneel. Your hands meet earth, and you begin to clear space. The brain too responds to care, to new nourishment, to slow diversity. This is called dopamine, rebalance, the process of letting the overgrown plant wither, not with violence, but with redirection. You don't tear it out. You simply stop feeding it, and in time its roots shrink. Meanwhile, you begin to replant. Tiny joys, low dopamine, high meaning pleasures, these become your new seeds. A moment of stillness, a journal line, a sip of tea in silence, a walk without headphones, a hug that lasts an extra breath. At first they seem too small, too quiet. They do not give the rush, but that's the point. They give instead a glow, a grounding, a sense that joy need not be explosive to be real. The more you plant, the more the brain relearns balance. Dopamine receptors, once numbed by flood, begin to resurface. They open again, like flowers in cautious spring. You feel this change not in fireworks, but in moments of presence. Suddenly the sky looks beautiful again. Food tastes richer. Time slows. The old craving, the towering plant, it still leans sometimes, still calls. But now it no longer owns the garden. You have options. Science tells us that novelty and effort are key to healthy dopamine flow. Not passive consumption, but active creation. So you begin to weave effort into your joy. You make something. You move your body. You learn a small skill. The reward is not instant, but it is earned. And the brain learns this feels better, longer. You water each new plant, not with urgency, but with patience. The brain is slow to shift, but once shifted, it blooms in loyalty. You begin to understand why addiction felt so loud, because your garden had gone quiet. But now you are teaching it to sing again. Each flower different, each one soft. Together they make music, and still you honor the overgrown root. You do not curse it. It was not evil. It was the only thing that grew when nothing else was planted. Now you have more. You breathe deeply. The scent of new blossoms fills you. The garden stretches not as escape, but as embodiment. You are not denying yourself pleasure. You are expanding it. You are no longer starving and flooding. You are feeding gently, daily, lovingly. Even when the craving stirs, you do not run. You walk through the garden. You remind your body, there are other ways. There are many kinds of light. Neuroplasticity supports this. The more you activate these new paths, the stronger they grow. The more joy becomes a shared chorus, not a single desperate voice. And one day you will walk through this garden and not even think of the old route. You will have repatterned not just behavior, but beauty. You lie back now in this mental meadow. Above you, stars blink in rhythm with your breath. Inside you, dopamine pulses not as a surge, but as a steady flame. The garden glows. You have not become someone new. You have returned to the balance you always deserved. And just as you close your eyes, the wind carries a question through the trees, a gentle thought, stirring petals as it passes. If joy can be spread like seeds, What might happen when you learn to sit with discomfort itself and not shrink? The forest hums with memory. You stand at the edge of a familiar path, a trail worn smooth by time, flattened by footsteps you've taken again and again. Your shoes know the curve, your body, the rhythm. It would be easy to walk it again, but tonight you pause. You feel the pull, yes, the quiet gravity of routine. Old responses beckon like familiar voices. React this way, cope that way, reach for what you always do. You breathe, and in that breath, something different awakens. To your right, the underbrush shivers. A path not yet formed, narrow, uncertain, overgrown, but promising. This is the moment, the edge of choice. In your brain, well-worn neural circuits light up, ready to repeat the old pattern, the automatic thought, the triggered reaction, the loop that feels like fate. But the truth is softer. These are not commands, only conveniences. Your brain prefers efficiency. It builds highways of thought through repetition, so it can conserve energy. But just because a trail is paved doesn't mean it leads where you want to go. Tonight, you step toward the wild path. The first step feels awkward. Twigs catch your ankles, leaves brush your face, your muscles tighten with unfamiliar effort. Your brain notices. This is called cognitive dissonance, the tension of doing something new, not because it's wrong, but because it's different. The neurons hesitate, searching for a script that doesn't yet exist. But with the second step, you give them something to write down. This is the magic of the unfamiliar. Every time you choose a new response, a pause instead of a reaction, a breath instead of a habit, a soft voice instead of a sharp one, your brain lights up with plasticity. Synapses fire in new combinations. Axons stretch like roots into untended soil. The forest of your brain expands. You feel the resistance lessen slightly. The brush still tugs, but you no longer fear it. Your heart finds a slower pace. The metaphor becomes real. Every path in your brain is a trail formed by use. Old ones become fast, efficient, automatic. But new ones, though slow at first, carry the potential of freedom. You remember a time you followed the old trail, the same trigger, the same spiral, the same end, exhausted, numb. There was comfort in that loop, but no growth. Now this quiet trail offers neither ease nor certainty, but it offers presence. Each footstep is a choice, and each choice tells your brain, this matters. Keep this. In time, the trail will widen, the brambles will part, the neurons will sheath in myelin, smoothing the signal like moss over rock. What once felt hard will become natural. What once took effort will become ease. You begin to smile, realizing that this discomfort is the sound of your brain learning. You are not lost. You are forging. You imagine now all the small choices you've made lately, to turn off the screen early, to take one breath before speaking, to sit in the quiet rather than escape it. Each one a footstep into the unknown. Each one a vote for a different future. The old path is still there. It may always be, but it no longer owns you. And when the pull returns, as it will, you do not panic. You simply remember, the well-worn road is a memory, not a mandate, and you have a lantern now. You press on. Around you the forest begins to bloom. New thoughts arrive, like birds, hesitant, colorful, curious. They perch on branches of possibility. They sing songs you've never heard. This is how healing feels, not like a loud moment, but like quiet consistency. You may stumble, you may step back, but even one new footstep changes the map. Neuroscience calls this experience-dependent plasticity. Your brain rewires based on what you do, not what you intend, but what you repeat. And so you keep walking. One choice, then another. Not perfect, just consistent. You reach a small clearing now. The air is different here, brighter, softer, like something inside you has unclenched. You have veered away and found yourself. Your brain is listening. Every new thought lays another stone. Every act of awareness builds trail signs. You are not just reacting, you are directing. And in time, this trail will feel like home. You lie down in the moss. The stars above peer through the branches, winking gently, as if in approval. The forest hums but differently, now, not with old noise, but with new potential. You breathe in, you rest, and just before sleep finds you, a quiet question takes root. If every new step can change the forest, what might happen if you learn to pause before the very first thought appears at all? The mirror waits quietly tonight, not the kind made of glass and silver, but one formed from awareness, still, reflective, inner. You hold it in your hands, and for once you do not look away. What it reflects is not flaw, not judgment, but something softer, a you that's trying. There are days you move through the world with a voice behind your thoughts, quiet but cutting. It says, not enough. It repeats, should have. It scolds, even when you are hurting. But tonight, you offer that voice a chair. You do not argue, you listen. And then you ask, where did you learn to speak to me that way? There is silence, and then perhaps a memory, maybe a moment from childhood. A look, a phrase, a wound wrapped in words. The inner critic was born from something. It didn't appear out of nowhere. It was taught by fear, by pressure, by trying to stay safe. But now you know something different. That voice can change. The mirror of compassion reflects not just who you are, but who you are becoming when you speak to yourself differently. Neuroscience has long shown that self-directed language, what you say inside, shapes the structure of your mind. Every time you offer yourself kindness, you light up regions of the brain associated with safety, trust, and emotional regulation. The prefrontal cortex, the insula, the anterior cingulate. Every time you soothe instead of scold, you change the pattern, and the critic slowly quiets. You sit beside that old voice now. It's smaller than you expected. Not a monster, just a frightened child wearing armor. So tonight, you give it new words. Not empty affirmations, but truths that feel like balm. You are allowed to rest. You are growing. Even when you fall, you are not broken. And slowly, something changes. That new voice, tentative, trembling, true, becomes louder. Neurons fire, connections shift. The story begins to rewrite itself. This is not indulgence. This is renovation. You are renovating your mind with kindness as blueprint, with words as brick and beam. It takes time. It takes repetition. But every self-soothing sentence is a hammer gently shaping the house you live in. You remember now, kindness isn't passive. It's an active, courageous form of change. Shame locks the brain in loops. It narrows perspective. It floods the nervous system, activating threat, fight, flight, freeze. But compassion opens space. It activates the vagus nerve, slows the heart, signals, you are safe now. From that safety, new decisions bloom. You think of your younger self now, the one who didn't know any better, the one who tried, the one who needed a kind word and got silence or worse. You picture them, sitting quietly in some remembered room. You walk to them, you kneel, and without performance or pretense, you say the thing they waited years to hear. You did enough, you were enough, you are still enough, and they believe you, because your voice is steady now, not perfect but rooted. This too rewires you. Research calls it self-compassion imagery. The act of visualizing comfort can alter emotional memory. By revisiting pain with new context, you soothe the nervous system, you interrupt the scar, you breathe healing into the synapse. You feel that breath, now soft, deep, calming. You're not pretending you've never made mistakes. You're not denying the struggle. You're just refusing to build your identity from criticism. You say growth isn't linear. I'm allowed to need time. And your brain nods, recognizing this new input as truth. The more you repeat these words, especially when things feel hard, the stronger the new voice becomes. And not just in your mind. Your body too listens. Cortisol lowers. Heart rate slows. Muscles unclench. This is self-talk as medicine. And over time, what once felt like effort becomes instinct. The mirror in your hand no longer reflects shame. It reflects presence. You look at yourself, really look, and see someone worthy of care, even in imperfection, especially in imperfection. You think of all the voices you've internalized from parents, teachers, media, culture, so many of them shouted. But now your voice whispers, and whispering is enough. You realize that the tone you use inside becomes the tone of your life. Speak harshly, and the world feels harsh. Speak gently, and even difficulty softens. You begin to talk to yourself as you would to a beloved friend. You say you're learning, you're allowed to not know. I'm here for you. And with those words, your inner scaffolding rebuilds. This is what psychologists call reparenting. It's not forgetting the past, it's giving yourself now what you didn't receive then. Your brain doesn't just remember trauma, it remembers kindness too. And kindness repeated becomes structure. The mirror glows now not with perfection, but with permission. Permission to pause, permission to speak differently, permission to be a work in progress without apology. You breathe. The mirror softens into light. The critic fades, the comfort stays. And just before you drift to sleep, a thought rests gently against your mind. If a new voice can reshape the brain, what happens when the body is finally invited to feel safe again, not just think it? The room is dark, but something inside you is beginning to glow, not with brightness, but with stillness, with the deep warmth that comes when the body begins to believe it is safe. You feel it in your chest, a loosening, in your shoulders, a surrender, in your breath, a rhythm returning home. This is the nervous system unwinding. This is the tide going out. For so long, night was not peace, it was pressure, a spike in thoughts, a rise in urges, a hidden battlefield. Addiction often thrives in this darkness, not because it is strong, but because it once offered relief when the rest of the world grew quiet. The brain, conditioned by repetition, learned to fear stillness, to replace silence with stimulation, to trade rest for relief, to meet fatigue with frantic energy. But tonight is different. Tonight, the nervous system is learning a new language. There are two currents within you, sympathetic and parasympathetic, fight or flight, rest and digest. All day the sympathetic system carries you alert, engaged, responsive. It is necessary. It is powerful. But at night, the parasympathetic system steps forward, not with noise but with invitation. The vagus nerve, the long communicator between brain and body, softly signals, "It is okay now, we are safe enough to settle." You feel that message reach your heart. Its beat slows, you feel it in your lungs. They expand more fully. Safety, it turns out, is not just a thought, it's a sensation. And tonight, you allow yourself to feel it. You once believed that calm was something to earn after enough work, enough control, enough doing better. But your nervous system doesn't wait for perfection. It responds to consistency, to repetition, to signals again and again that the danger is past. This is how the body rewires, not all at once, but moment by moment. Lying here, you begin to trust that you are no longer the person who needed to escape so urgently. The urgency has softened. What remains is awareness. This shift is not imaginary. It is physical. Addiction wires the nervous system toward reactivity. Quick highs, quick drops, like a jagged heart rate drawn across the days. But healing is the slow return of rhythm. It's the widening of your window of tolerance, the range of arousal in which you can feel things fully, without collapsing or fleeing. That window begins to open now, not with force, with breath. Inhale, the nervous system expands. Exhale, it settles. Each breath is a neural message. We are not in danger. And when you believe that, not just intellectually, but bodily, your choices change. Your cravings quiet, your thoughts uncoil. The brain is always listening to the body, and the body, even after chaos, can relearn calm. You think back to the nights that used to race, the ones where sleep felt like a cliff's edge, where rest meant losing control. where silence grew too loud. You don't blame yourself for those nights. You survived them. But now, you offer your body a different message. A slower night. A kinder one. You wrap yourself in stillness like a weighted blanket, not heavy, but grounding. Your feet rest. Your hands rest. Your jaw releases its grip. These are small cues, but the nervous system reads them fluently. It begins to shift. Melatonin rises. Cortisol wanes. Your circadian rhythm, often disrupted by addiction's patterns, starts to find its center. Sleep is no longer the enemy. It is the return. You begin to understand that healing doesn't mean never feeling urgency. It means knowing what to do with it. It means recognizing the spike and not letting it steer you off course. It means asking, what am I running from? What does my body need right now? And then listening. Maybe it needs movement. Maybe stillness, maybe breath, maybe nothing at all, just time. You give it time now, and time when not rushed becomes medicine. You recall the research. Polyvagal theory says that co-regulation, being near someone calm, can calm you too. But you are alone now, and still you settle. That's the other kind of regulation, self-regulation. The ability to be with yourself without needing to flee. The night once feared has become your teacher. It teaches you that darkness isn't danger. Stillness isn't stagnation. Quiet isn't absence, it's space. And in this space your nervous system remembers its own wisdom. It begins to unwind. You feel the soft flicker of safety root itself in your spine, in your belly, in your breath. You are not holding on anymore. You are being held by the mattress, by the moment, by something deeper. And slowly you understand, you are not broken, you are sensitive, and sensitivity can be strength when paired with safety. You do not have to stay alert all the time, you are allowed to rest, and rest when chosen with intention becomes the new signal, one that says this body can belong to peace. This night does not need to be survived, it can be received. The tide has gone out, there is only calm now. Only the sound of the nervous system finding its rhythm again, slow, steady, sacred. And just before you slip beneath the waves of sleep, a thought rises, carried on your final breath. If the body can learn to feel safe again, what happens when dreams begin to reflect that safety too? Morning has not arrived, but something inside you stirs with the softness of beginning. There is no grand declaration, no rush, no finish line. Only the hum of something quietly returning. You think back on the days, the weeks, the months, how so many moments felt too small to matter. But tonight, you begin to see them differently. You see the brushing of your teeth, not as routine, but as ritual, as reclaiming. You see the tea you poured each morning, even when you felt numb, the way the steam rose, the way your hands held the cup as if holding yourself. You remember the walks, not long, not urgent, but regular. These were not escapes. They were signals, messages from you to your own brain. We are choosing differently now, because that's what repetition is, not noise, not flash, but pattern. And the brain, more than anything, listens to pattern. You lie still and feel the truth of it. Settle around you like a weighted blanket. Neuroplasticity doesn't care about drama. It cares about rhythm. The neurons do not ask, was it impressive? They ask, was it repeated? Each time you take a new action, no matter how small, you vote. You vote for a different identity, a different brain, a different way of being. And tonight, you feel the power of that vote. It hums like a current through your nervous system, not loud but steady. A rhythm your cells are beginning to memorize. Science confirms what you're feeling. Neurons that fire together, wire together. But wiring isn't instant. It's iterative, slow. That's why the brain doesn't change through inspiration alone. It changes through maintenance, through showing up, even when you don't feel like it. Especially then, you smile as you realize your healing didn't happen all at once. It happened in unremarkable moments, repeated again and again, until something inside finally said, "This is who we are now." There were days you stumbled. Of course there were, but what mattered wasn't the stumble, it was the return. The return is the redemption. Each time you came back to the routine, back to the walk, the breath, the journal page, you sent a message to your mind. We are still building, and the mind believed you. That's how new grooves are carved, not through force but through faithful repetition. It is easy to worship the idea of the breakthrough, the epiphany, the transformation. But most of healing is not that. Most of healing is mundane. You make the bed, you go outside, you drink water. And in doing these things you lay new scaffolding in the brain. These aren't just behaviors, they're anchors, they're biological cues that say, this is safety, this is structure, this is care. Even when you feel chaotic, you can choose routine, and the routine over time softens the chaos. You think now of all the neurons you've retrained, not by yelling at them but by walking beside them. The mind, like a field, is tilled slowly, and each repeated act is a seed, one push-up, one page read, one moment of not picking up the thing you used to reach for. Each time a root takes hold. It doesn't look like much, but underground, the brain is changing. Synaptic strength, pathway pruning, myelin insulation, all of it unfolding beneath the surface. You were doing the work even when you didn't feel it, because repetition is not about feeling, it's about choosing, again and again, even when you don't want to. Especially when you don't want to, that's when it counts the most. Tonight you wrap yourself in that truth. You don't need to change everything at once. You only need to return to what matters consistently. The brain will do the rest. And in this way, redemption becomes ordinary, not flashy, not heroic, but gentle, grounded, earned. You feel your breath slow. You think of tomorrow not with dread, but with quiet resolve. You will do what you did yesterday, and the day before. You'll rise, you'll return, you'll repeat. And the repetition will become identity. This is who I am now, you will say, not with arrogance but with knowing. The person who brushes their teeth, who walks, who speaks kindly to themselves, who begins again, as many times as needed. Because the miracle is not in the size of the act, it is in the rhythm. You lie deeper into the bed. The lights within your mind flicker lower. The machinery of healing continues even now. Even in rest, your basal ganglia, home of habit formation, quietly folds another vote into memory. Your nervous system whispers, this is our new normal. Not a finish line, a direction, not perfection, momentum. And just before sleep arrives, you feel a final ripple of wonder. If every repeated act shapes the brain, what might change when love itself becomes a practice, not just a feeling? The night is velvet now, thick, dark, comforting, and within it, small lights begin to stir. Not stars, closer, alive, fireflies. You close your eyes and see them, glimmers pulsing gently in the folds of your mind. One blinks behind your forehead, a moment today when you chose calm instead of compulsion. Another near your chest, when you forgave yourself before the guilt could settle. They flash, not all at once, but in rhythm, organic, unforced. This is the pattern of becoming, this is your future, written in fireflies. Each one a spark of neural change, an echo of a new behavior, a softened thought, a quieter craving. They do not erase the past. They do not need to. They offer something better. Contrast, hope, evidence that light lives here now too. You drift deeper into your body. It feels softer than it used to, less armored, more open. And your mind, it no longer feels like a battleground. It feels like a field, wild, healing, firelit. The fireflies are the neurons firing differently. Science might call it synaptic potentiation, the strengthening of new pathways through repetition. But tonight, you simply call it grace, because it is. To change even slowly is a grace. To blink in the dark and know, I am not where I was, even if you're not yet where you're going. This is how the brain unlearns, not with thunder, but with shimmer. Neural pruning clears the overgrowth. New circuits form like soft trails through the woods. You don't always notice the path as you walk it, but look behind. and you'll see the glow. One firefly flashes near your ear, a new way of listening, of responding without fear. Another near your spine, a night you stayed present in your body instead of floating away. They are not bright enough to blind, but together they guide. You begin to trust that these sparks mean something, that even on days that feel dull, the fireflies are still there. Change is rarely cinematic. It is often quiet, invisible even until it isn't. And one night, just like this, you realize you don't react the way you used to. You pause, you breathe, you choose. That's a firefly, and it matters. You think now of all the things you thought you couldn't change. The grooves too deep, the reflex too fast, the pain too old. But even stone erodes, even reflex learns to wait. The fireflies prove it. They are glimmers of neuroplasticity, but more than that, they are glimpses of a self you are growing toward. One who responds with presence, one who rests without shame, one who sees the light, not as reward, but as remembrance. The fireflies do not arrive because you earned them. They arrive because you stayed, because you showed up again and again, because you whispered to your own mind, "I want to feel different," and your brain listened. It may have taken time, it may have grumbled and pulled toward the old roads, but it listened, and now it sparkles, not with perfection, not with permanence, but with promise. You lie here, breathing gently, and realize healing is not a place you reach, it is a rhythm you keep. Some nights will still be heavy, some thoughts sharp, but the fireflies are not extinguished by darkness. They shine because of it. They blink to remind you, every small act counts, every return is progress, every gentle decision is a flame, and over time, the glimmers grow close enough to feel like daylight. You see now, your future is not a fixed thing, it is a sky filled with blinking points of choice. Each one leads you forward, not fast, but faithfully. The fireflies are your new memory, your proof. The past is not erased. It is reframed. You didn't forget the pain. You learned to hold it without letting it define you. That is the brightest light of all. You smile, eyes closed. You let the fireflies drift over you, gathering near your heart. They do not ask for more. They do not demand. They are satisfied, just to flicker, just to say, "You are becoming." And so you rest, not in denial, but in recognition. This moment matters. This night is part of the rhythm. Even now, as you sink towards sleep, your brain is sorting, storing, strengthening. It does not need your attention to change. It just needs your consistency, your return, your trust. The fireflies glow one last time. Tonight, not for show, for signal. They leave you with a soft message. Change is not sudden, but it is here. It is slow, and it is sacred. And just before the darkness takes you fully into dream, you wonder if these fireflies are sparks of becoming. Then what might happen when love itself becomes the light they follow?